I think that it's really sad that a lot of people, they spend their life not being ambitious, not trying to contribute, not trying to make a lot of money, create wealth, because they're afraid that if they get wealthy, for some reason, they're going to become this evil, bad person, when in reality, they're probably going to be the most giving people.
There's so many stories out in the world about people who have risen from absolutely nothing and built their empires. And now, because they remember where they came from, they're doing wonderful things in the world. I mean, look at Oprah Winfrey. I mean, she came from abuse, she came from poverty, and she rose to be one of the most influential.
Focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risk.
Is that the great Maria?
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
All right. So where are you located right now? Are you in LA?
Yes. So
okay.
I live in the Los Feliz area.
Okay. All right. And your latest and greatest trip, did you just get back from somewhere, anywhere, or you been kind of around town?
I have intentionally grounded myself for probably most of the summer until the fall, where I'll start doing international travel again, because I'm writing a second book.
Wow.
And I'm also launching an online course based on my first book.
Sweet.
So I have a lot to do while I'm here. Yeah. No, it's pretty exciting.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm really excited to have you. I mean, I've actually been waiting for this interview. I mean, as you know, I love to travel, so I'm excited to talk about the world of travel and, you know, your great adventures.
Yeah. The thing about my travel, it's very intentional, and it's well-being travel. And in my market is you. It's the luxury market. And, you know, my feeling is there are a lot of people who are really excellent at focusing on a market that is broader, you know, a more mainstream market. And my thought has always been that I want to reach the tip of the spear, because that's where the resources exist. That's where you have the ability to fund nonprofits, initiatives, take care of wells in Africa. So that is my market. And so all of the travel that I do, because I have a well-being background, and my producing skills actually come into play as well. But because I have a well-being background, that is all woven into the trips. But the trips also, we're going to a rhino sanctuary that is doing cutting edge work. We're going to an orphaned elephant sanctuary where it's run by the women in the community. That there is something that is very meaningful. You're not just going and staying at really swoopy places. I mean, you get that. I mean, I have one trip where we're going through Kenya, and it's just 8 people on a private jet.
Well, that sounds like fun.
So that's the travel I do through Sojourn Explorers.
So you walked.
I have.
You walked 8,500 miles for charity. Tell us what that was all about.
Now we're over 10,000. At that point, that was true, but it's been updated. Yeah. So I have this natural ability to just walk. Maybe I was a Maasai in another life, but I can just walk. I can go out and do 5 miles, 10 miles, and I don't even think about it. I just do it. And at some point, I wanted to do something useful with it. And that came, and if you read my book, I talk about it, that I have a friend who was one of the winners of the Africa season of Survivor, and he came down with cancer. And he was a part of the Live Strong Foundation, who was a sponsor for the New York Marathon. I was just like, Ian, I want to be supportive. My mother went through cancer. I care about you. I had never done a marathon, and it was already, pretty late into the game to start training for one. But I did it, and I just kept doing it. If I did New York, I wanted to do LA. And if I did LA, I found out there that the 2500th anniversary of the original marathon was being held in Athens. Being Greek, of course, I had to do that. And it just became it became my version of the seven summits. So if you know anything about mountain climbing, you have the seven summiters who do the highest peak on every continent. Well, mine was doing a marathon on every continent. And I just kept going. So between the training and doing the marathons, the miles just add up, and I keep clicking them. I have this fantastic app that I'm happy to promote. It's called Charity Miles. And you choose the charity that you want to put your miles towards. And then there is a sponsor, like it's Garmin or a food company or a water company, that then matches, they put in the money against the miles that you are walking. So that's how I'm accumulating so many miles, is I'm just tracking it on an app. And it's I'm supporting right now the Nature Conservatory. And that's the way I do it. I just go out into Griffith Park, which is 20 minutes from me, and I go walk.
Good for you. Good for you. So did you always have that heart of charity and empathy and wanting to help people? Is that kind of maybe like an upbringing thing? I mean, what did your parents do, by the way, growing up? Like, what was your childhood like?
No, that was not it for me. I mean, my parents were always very generous, but I grew up being very much, you stay within the family, you take care of the family. That was always the first front line before you did anything else. And it truly was not until I realized this natural ability to walk and had this realization that I wanted to do something better than just listen to audiobooks and practice my French that could be constructive. So that part of me developed much later in life, because it was something it was something I felt that I could really do and commit to. For me, a lot of the do good, aspect of things, it's a commitment of time. And I was always concerned about the time commitment. Whereas this was something, well, I'm out walking anyway, so I can be contributing. So it really came out of that. And then when I went into my own journey of happiness and well-being fairly early on, I realized that I wanted to share what I was finding so helpful in turning around my life with others, and doing it really for people who were creative professionals like myself, as well as conscious achievers. So when I realized who I could serve and why, it took on its own dimension and reason to be.
Got a question. And I mean, do you see that could there be like a contradiction between people that are like real spiritual, real, in tune with that, but then also super ambitious? Like, how do those two things go together in your mind when you think about it?
Purpose, meaning. Just because you have, that's a myth that people feel that's out there, that if you have ambition, if you want money, that makes you a bad person. It does not. It's how are you using that ambition? How are you going to use your financial resources? I know several very wealthy people, and they use their money for good. And that's going back to what I was originally saying in terms of who my target market is, who are my students, who are my clients. they're the tip of the spear because they have the resources and they want to do good in the world with their access. So I do not think that it's mutually exclusive, and it's a myth. That's a limiting belief that, I don't know, maybe that was indoctrinated by a very strict religious philosophy or doctrine that said, money is bad or evil. That does not have to be. And it's the opposite.
It's interesting, but that's it's wide out there, though. I mean, it's a huge belief of so many people. I mean, that you can't be a good person if you are motivated and ambitious and want to make a lot of money. Because the truth is, I mean, ultimately, when you have abundance and you have wealth and you have abundance, well, the natural thing, because it is a human need, by the way, a human need is to give and to want to contribute your life to something more meaningful than watching TV and eating food and just sitting around and having glasses of wine. I mean, there's more to life than doing the relaxing things. And I think that it's really sad that a lot of people, they spend their life not being ambitious, not trying to contribute, not trying to make a lot of money, create wealth, because they're afraid that if they get wealthy for some reason, they're going to become this evil. When in reality, they're probably going to be the most giving people if they were willing to go out there and fight for abundance.
Yeah, there's so many stories out in the world about people who have risen from absolutely nothing and built their empires. And now, because they remember where they came from, they're doing wonderful things in the world. I mean, look at Oprah Winfrey. I mean, she came from abuse. She came from poverty. And she rose to be one of the most influential, not just women, but people in the world. I mean, what she has built is astonishing. It's similar with Maya Angelou. I mean, came from poverty, came from, race, being a victim of racism, abuse, and look at what she rose to accomplish. So those stories are out there, and I'm pretty sure they weren't feeling bad that they suddenly became this evil person. I mean, each one of those acquired such great status and wealth and used it in such a positive, empowering way. So I think that I think it's also changing. I think there is a level of consciousness that is shifting in our world. And I think a lot of it started to come from going through COVID, where people being forced to be alone with themselves, mean alone with their thoughts, started to realize, you know what? There is a different way. I don't have to sit inside of four white walls. I don't have to exist in a work environment that's toxic. I remember I come from a television background, and I remember early in my career, I used to buy media time for the NBC affiliate in San Francisco. And I was the one that was coming in every weekend, being the only one in the office, getting my media buys done and whatever I needed to do to maintain my job. And I remember this one particular Saturday where I'm just looking around my cubicle at four white walls, and I'm like, I live in one of the most beautiful cities in the world. People pay a lot of money to come to the city I'm living in, and I'm inside of four white walls. And I remember climbing up on top of my desk and looking over all of the other cubicles. And it was in that moment I said, this is not happening. This is not happening. And I gave up my suits and I changed my life.
So when you think about happiness, because I mean, there's a lot of people that are depressed right now. I mean, I think I think society is changing, and there's a lot of people coming around. But let's be honest. I mean, there's still just a huge, massive population of people that are just ridiculously depressed. I mean, taking drugs constantly. Again, alcohol is so prevalent, and just my own journey in the last couple of years, I've cut off 95% of anything. I mean, I drink some wine, but that's about it. And I've given that up because I feel like, I saw that society was saying that these certain things, they're going to make you happy. And I'm going, then I never saw them really making you happy in the long term, right? It might be a short burst of happiness, but in the long run, these things are bad for your health. They're bad for your, for your mind, your brain, your energy, you name it, right? And so, but there's so many depressed people out there. And so tell me, how is happiness a choice? Explain that. And what are some things that you do that create more happiness in your life? And how can we get a little bit of that?
Well, I think we each get to a certain point in various ways where we realize that we are incredibly not happy. We don't have meaning. We don't have purpose, which is foundational to one's happiness. And that's what happened to me. I got to a place where the X and Y of my personal life and my professional life were not happening. And I was in such a state of despair. And I just remember sitting in my office in Los Angeles. It was just a brilliant, beautiful, sunny day outside, but boy, there were dark clouds inside my office, and that was me emotionally. And it was as if the clouds parted, if you will, and it was this realization, I don't want to be unhappy. I don't want to be defined by this moment. I don't want to be taken down by it. And it was such clarity that it was a choice. I don't have to be here. I don't have to stay here. And it was that conscious choice. And this is what I tell everybody. The key to happiness is first it's choice. And then you got to back it up. You got to do the work. You got to do the inner work. That means you are doing things that boost your happiness. And that can come in different ways. And that's a lot of what my book is about. It's that exploration of what specifically is going to make you happy. So yes, you can have things like meditation. I have a very strong daily meditation practice, which has been a game changer for me in my life. A lot of it is your thoughts. I think so much of our unhappiness comes from our thoughts and letting your thoughts go wherever and not managing them, not being aware of them, and making conscious choices when you are aware of the kinds of thoughts, the quality of thoughts. It's like, oh, this thought is toxic. It's not serving me. Or even as I have now come to realize, because I've been on my journey for a while, it's just, this is an old tape that's playing. I don't even believe this anymore. And one of the things that I learned becoming a meditation teacher, especially when I studied Deepak Chopra's primordial sound meditation, was just because and they also teach you this in mindfulness, that just because you are having a thought doesn't mean you are that thought. Doesn't mean you have to believe that thought. You can do something about it. And thoughts create, emotions trigger thoughts. And all of those can be managed with awareness. And meditation is a great gateway to opening that awareness. One of the other things that I do that's a go-to for me on a daily basis, going with managing your thoughts, comes from cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's this practice called thought stopping. That's exactly what you're doing. I mean, you're doing what it says. So you can have a rubber band around your wrist. You can do something to trigger it. So if you are having a negative thought and you find yourself looping, saying the same thing, you're spiraling out the same thing. Oh, he did this to me. He did this to me. He did this. Okay. You become aware of it, and then you either snap a rubber band on your wrist, you clap your hands, you say out loud, stop it. And what you're doing is you are literally startling your thought. And when you startle your thought, that then gives you the opportunity to choose a different thought. Choose a different thought that is productive. Yeah, I really try not to use the word positive thinking. I mean, people quickly understand what that is, but the more accurate word is productive or constructive thinking, because that's what you want. You want thoughts that are serving you. You know, you can think happy thoughts and they can maybe make you feel good in the moment. And really going back to what you were just asking me before about people and how unhappy they are, it's because they are putting their happiness into something outside of them more times than not. You know, and that's a big myth about happiness, is that I will be happy when I get a job promotion. I will be happy when I win an award. I will be happy when I own 5 Teslas. You know, I will be happy when. And those are all external. You know, happiness is it's an inside gain. It's an inside feeling. That's where the true happiness, and that's where you need to do the inner work, it's an inside gain. It's an inside feeling. That's where the true happiness, and that's where you need to do the inner work.
And out of all of the happiness essentials, what are some, be honest, but what are some of the things that are hard for you? Like what's the most difficult for you to, this whole happiness journey? What's some of your difficulties?
So in my book and just what I write about and teach, I call them happiness essentials. And they are the core values, the virtues and qualities that most happy people embody. And the reason you want to learn and understand this and explore this for yourself is you're teaching yourself resilience. We're talking about being happier, but really what we're talking about is resilience. That you understand things like faith or love or gratitude and how that factors into your framework of happiness. So you have the emotional tools to deal with the challenges that life will throw your way, the ups and downs that we all experience. For me, the one that I've gotten better about it, but it's still, an ongoing work in progress for me. It's detachment. So I write about 8 happiness essentials, and they are having faith, love, health in mind, body, and spirit, being grateful, being forgiving, having peace, inner peace, detachment, and then abundance. And when I say detachment, that doesn't mean that you don't care. It's that you are not holding on to, they have to be this way. I need to have this result. That you're not holding on so tightly to the way things should be, from your perspective or what you think is owed to you. And it's not to say that you don't have ambitions. You can still have those dreams and ambitions, and that's what's also giving your life meaning and purpose. However, you're not hanging on so tightly to the way it needs to come out. And
so is that what you're saying? It's the detachment is kind of the sticky spot for you sometimes, in the sense that you still kind of hang on to some of that stuff that maybe should be let go?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I will attach to, well, they should behave this way, or this should be the outcome from, this amount of effort. So learning that detachment is it's an ongoing practice for me. But here's the thing, is that when you're not holding on so tightly to a particular result, particular outcome, you are then opening the space for something even better to come into your life that you may not even be aware of at the time that you are setting your intention. And so it's have your dream and say, this is what I want, this or something better.
Yeah, I think that for me, what changed my life over the last couple of years is I read the book. Oh my goodness. Oh, Letting Go, the book called Letting Go. And, or even, what's that, by Singer? Oh gosh. Anyways, but bottom line, the whole thought of the both of those books, Unconscious Soul I think it's Unconscious Soul. And the whole thought was letting things go. And I look back at my life and I think, oh my God, how many times did I not let things go? Did I not detach from things that were, in a lot of cases are so out of my control? But I just tried to control them so much. And it was, ultimately, or like a conversation or an argument or somebody doesn't think like you think. And you just, we hold on to things that I think are so destructive. And it's, I think that just, really coming to grips that I'm in control where I can let things go. I can just be okay that it didn't work out like I wanted it to work out. Or, I don't have to necessarily try to control every situation in my life. And so, you kind of got me to think about when you said detachment, it's definitely a journey for me as well. There's no question. It's a pretty powerful, piece of advice right there. And so are there any of the other essentials that have been a little bit more difficult for you, or that you've, it's taken you a little bit more time to master, or to try to, make sure you got a hold of in your life?
Forgiveness. And I think I think the two I just mentioned are big ones for many people. Being able to forgive. Often we equate with forgiveness with being a doormat or condoning bad behavior. And it's neither of those. What you're really doing is you are taking the control back. I say forgiving is for living. You do the forgiveness, which is acknowledging what happened. You can't change it. What happened. And then giving yourself the permission to get off of the mental and emotional hamster wheel. And this might need therapy to do that, so you can move forward. So it's never about saying, oh, it was okay for you to abuse me. It's never that. But it's I acknowledge that this is what you did to me. It's not okay. And I'm just going to move on with my life.
Powerful. So you produced Survivor.
Yes.
What did that teach you throughout that process? What did it teach you about human behavior and human psychology?
I always did the seasons that I did. I was one of the original supervising producers, and the seasons that I did, I always had the last episode. So I was with the Survivor contestants until the very, very end. And I would hear the same thing, time and again. Well, this isn't me. This is me playing a game. And it really got me to thinking, it's just, yes, it is you. And in that, it got me to thinking about our potential, and that we don't really know, good or bad, what our potential is until we test it. So if you have never been on a remote island without your creature comforts, without the support system of your family and friends, vying for life-changing money, if you have never been in that situation, you have no idea how you are going to behave. And so that, in part, was what prompted me to go on my own journey, and looking at my behavior and what I was doing. It's just, how was I moving through the world unconsciously? How was I reacting in situations that were unfamiliar to me? So I think that that's the biggest takeaway, is that you don't know what you are capable of, like I said, good or bad, until you are in that situation. And that's the invitation in my book, is that you explore your happiness in a way that you haven't before, to better understand your well-being. We go to school to be teachers, doctors, filmmakers, financial advisors, but we're really not taught how to manage our well-being, which is so critical. That's why we get to our point in our life where you may have acquired a lot, but yet you feel that you have so little and feel so empty. It's because you haven't been taught how to take care of your well-being as you were moving through life. So that's my big takeaway from Survivor.
How much of reality TV is real reality? And, is there kind of a, especially now, I mean, because it's just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. I mean, so many reality things going on right now. And how much of that is just manipulation of, creating pain and creating controversy, which ultimately sells?
Well, I mean, candidly, I can't really speak to that because that's not my world. So I can only speak to what I've done. And what I've done was, what you saw was what you got. So Survivor is a competition show. And because they were vying for $1 million, you could not stage things. You could not lead interviews, because it could come back to you as a lawsuit saying, well, because you did this, you impacted my gain and it cost me $1 million. So for me, I never interfered. And you couldn't write some of this stuff. If you just let life, especially when you're in that kind of a survival situation, if you just let life be life, I mean, it just, people will amaze you what they will do and say. So I can only speak to my experience. I cannot speak to the entire reality genre. That's actually not my world.
But you did work behind the scenes in Hollywood, in that world for a long time, right? I mean, how long were you working?
Yeah. Well, and I still do. Still do. So I come from what I call an unscripted space. So I've done doc formats. I've done a variety of things. Reality competition show. I mean, it's been a widely different subject matter. I spent several months in South Africa with 4 former special ops, spec ops. 3 were former Navy SEALs. 1 was a Green Beret. And they were teaching, it was a show about them teaching anti-poaching techniques to the Rangers in the greater Kruger area, for rhinos and elephants that were getting poached. Very different subject matter between doing a reality competition show like Survivor and then, working with, spec ops doing anti-poaching maneuvers in Africa. So, yeah.
And how did it all begin? How did it all begin for you? How did you get connected in that world?
I just always loved storytelling. I love adventure. I love traveling. So it was all of those pieces, and then finding myself being asked to work or finding out about shows that I would go out for and work on them. I mean, I always thought a lot about the shows I was doing, because you live with this content for a very long time and very intimately. So I always cared about my subject matter. And I've said over the years no to many, many projects because it just wasn't me. It just wasn't a topic that I wanted to invest a year of my life into doing. So I could have done many more shows than I have done because I just said no. I didn't want to do the show.
And so the best country or the best international adventure that you've had so far, if what's that? When I say that, what country pops to your mind?
Well, it's a continent, and that's Africa. Africa is my heart place. Africa changed me as a human. It is the one place in the world where I feel such a deep, deep, deep primal stir. And I feel the age of the earth in a way that is so sensual. It's intoxicating. And I just love that part of the world because it just speaks so deeply to me.
Well,
and I love bringing people there.
Well, one of my best friends is from South Africa. So actually him and his wife are both from South Africa, and they live in Utah now, but I actually got to go on safari with them, which was an incredible experience. So right outside of Johannesburg, and years ago. But wow, yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you. I mean, and what other parts of Africa? I mean, there's certain areas in Africa that you've really enjoyed. What other sort of aspects of Africa would you like to tell us about?
I love Botswana. I feel it is such a pristine environment. And especially when you go into the Okavango Delta, the cats, the lions and leopards and the cheetahs, they look healthier to me. This is my point of view. I'm not saying they are, it's just my perception that they look healthier. And a lot of it, I think, especially in the Delta area, is because they're having to cross the water. And so in crossing the water, they're building different muscles. So they look muscular to me in a different way. And their coats just seem to be cleaner and shinier. And I feel it doesn't have the same congestion as going to someplace like the Ngorongoro crater or the Masai Mara. You are in private reserves in Botswana where they're controlling the amount of vehicle pressure that are on the animals. So if you are with a lioness and her cubs, you may be the only vehicle there, or there may be only two vehicles. So rather, if you compare that going to like the Ngorongoro crater or the Mara, where you'll have 40 vehicles parked up just in queue waiting to see that lioness and her cubs. So I feel in Botswana, it's a more pristine and intimate experience. It's also a more expensive country to visit.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I almost got ate by a lion. So yeah, it was when we went, we actually got followed by two big lions that actually came into our little resort. There was only about maybe 12 villas or something inside of in this lodge that we were staying in. And it was pretty scary. They were calling around everybody, do not leave your room. I mean, we were on our little, a truck driving in, and they were following us, and they followed us right through. And it's an interesting story because the night before I wanted to leave our room at 8:00 in the morning. But the guy, our driver, he said, well, if you want to see lions, we got to go out a little bit earlier. So we went out at 6. But had I left my room at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's actually when the lions came right through, which, by the way, walked very close to where my villa was. So it was a pretty, pretty spectacular event. Never heard a roar sound like, like this. I mean, up so close. It was amazing. I mean, we followed the lions in for probably an hour, and it was pretty spectacular. So do you have any cool adventures or stories that you'd like to share with us?
Well, speaking about lions and them being around, I was doing a story. It was a wildlife show that I was working on where we would do different segments, usually featuring a vet or a ranger, somebody working with the wildlife. And we spent all night following what we thought was a pride of 8 lions. And I mean, in the middle of the night, you have to get out to do as you do, go to the bathroom. And then we come to dawn where we could see the lions more clearly. And we realized that there was an extra lion that we had not accounted for. And we were outside our vehicles, for one reason or another during the night when we thought there were no lions around us, where there could very well have been a lion. So
it's scary and it's real. I mean, there was a couple that were eaten in their car on the in the in the park, basically the preserve. And I mean, they were just having lunch and this lion came in their car and took their life. So yeah, it was pretty wild stuff. I mean, when you think about like Africa and you look at kind of how they run their country, or this massive continent, right? I mean, is there still a lot of corruption going on? I mean, is there still a lot of bad stuff happening in Africa? Because I always hear stories about Africa being just so wildly corrupt, because I think the United States gives a decent amount of money to Africa just to help, and it seems like that's been a long time. Are there changes over there, or is it it's just the way it is?
I think that there are changes, and it's a country by country, administration by administration, situation. I mean, I think it's similar to many places in the world. How much corruption exists, it depends on who is in power at the time. But yes, is there corruption? Sure, there's corruption in our country too.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we're finding out a whole lot of corruption going on, a lot of stealing of our tax dollars. Mount Kilimanjaro, you did that twice. Yeah. So what did that teach you about yourself that therapy couldn't?
To break it down, that you can do anything if you make the pieces small enough. So when I did Kilimanjaro the first time, I had just finished doing a show for the History Channel called Expedition Africa, where I took 4 modern day explorers retracing Henry Morton Stanley's journey to find Dr. Livingstone in the 1870s. So I spent a lot of time in Tanzania. I spent a lot of time on roads. I spent a lot of time watching 4 modern day explorers walking. And I got it into my head that, well, Kilimanjaro's here, why not? And one of the explorers was a 7th summiter. So he was able to make arrangements for him, my director of photography, and myself to climb Kilimanjaro with a guide. And when I was at the base of Kilimanjaro, I looked up and I thought, oh my God, what did I just get myself into? I had never climbed a mountain. I had no idea how I would fare at altitude, because you can get altitude sickness. And I'm also a little afraid of heights. So as I was walking, the only thing I could do to not freak myself out was not look at the mountain. I consciously would not allow myself to look at the summit. And I would just put one foot in front of another foot, in front of another foot. I would watch the feet in front of me. And there is a Greek saying that my mother, I grew up with from my mother, which was being by being fills the bag. And I kept thinking about that as just one step, one step, one step is a bean that's filling the bag. And then I got eventually to the summit, and I just burst into tears because I didn't think I could do it. So I showed myself that I could do something having no experience and succeed. And I took that forward into many things that I went on to do afterwards. And that was actually the first trip I did with my Sojourn Explorers travel company.
That's a wonderful piece of advice for anybody in life, right? I mean, just one foot in front of the other, you just get up and you just do it. And then you get up and you do it again, and you get up and you do it again. And you just don't stop until you get to where you want to go. That's it. That's all you can do is all you can do. And all you can do is enough. Right. So, what was there ever, cause you've traveled so many places and you've done so many things. I mean, was there ever lonely moments? I mean, does it ever get lonely sometimes traveling?
That's the thing about loneliness. For me, I don't really feel it. And I remember as a kid, my father telling me, and I didn't understand at the time, I'm never bored. And I'm like, how could you never be bored? And it wasn't until I went on in life, I don't feel lonely and I don't feel bored. I'm sure there are flickers of that, but that's not something that I experience. I actually spend a lot of time on my own. I travel by myself. I live by myself. I take myself to dinner. I take myself to the movies. I go hiking by myself. I do a lot of things solo. And I have come to enjoy my own company. And I have so many things that I am interested in doing that it keeps me occupied. It keeps my container full. So that's kind of a hard one to answer because it's not something I really feel.
No, I think that you have mastered a lot of your emotions. So I think it is. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, people, they worry so much about what other people think about them. And through my years in business and through, I've been called cold. I've been called somebody that's not a sensitive person. I've been called mean. I'm a coach. I coach agents and I coach my teams. I've done it for 30 years now. And so there is a level of maturity that you get to, or maybe just self-reflection or self-understanding, whatever, that you get to a point where you're like, I don't care what you think about me. I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. I know my intentions are pure. And so I think that you have mastered a lot of your emotions because I think what makes you happy. And if doing things on your own or being on your own or experiencing things on your own, if they make you happy, doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it with other people too. But if you know that something makes you happy and then you do it, well, then you're just enjoying it now and you're enjoying the experience and you're happy in that moment, in that experience. So good for you. I mean, that's, I think, a great way to live where, you're okay, you're okay with yourself and you enjoy your own company. I mean, I think we should all get to a point where we enjoy our own company and we embrace happiness as it hits us and enjoy it and be grateful for it and be excited that we have these opportunities and these chances to be happy. So when you, because you do talk about, You should write, direct, and produce your own life. That should be what we're focused on. Do you ever get tired of doing it all on your own sometimes?
Heck yes. And just to address emotions, while I may have a good handle on my emotions, and I have the emotional tools to help me navigate challenges, at the end of the day, I'm human. Do I get mad and upset about things? Yes, I do. My ethnicity, and I say this affectionately with a certain element of truth because that's the way I grew up. I'm Greek. We're a very emotive, emotional, group of people. I say Greeks, and again, I'm reflecting my family and what I grew up with. We live at the top of our lungs and the end of our nerves. However, it's managing that and learning to, but I still spiral out. And I think the difference of my spiraling out, or maybe not being as stellar in my behavior, is that I don't hang on to it. I don't stay there as long. I move through it much more quickly, and I have clearer boundaries.
What part of what?
That's
Well, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I said that's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and so is there a part of your journey that still scares you? I mean, do you get scared at all about certain things, or when you take on a new project, or you try something new, or are there still things that scare you?
Sure. I mean, just because you are studying well-being and putting good practices on a consistent basis, it doesn't take away fear. It doesn't take away the ups and downs. You just manage them better. So yes, I still get afraid. I'm afraid of speaking in front of large audiences. Yeah. But then the thing that helps me manage that is when I realize it's not about me. It's about the message that is going to help others. And so when I take that off of making it about me, then that helps. So yeah, you learn, and going back to the essence of my book, which is, learning those core values of happy people, and doing that inner work, that deeper work. The approach that I take is a creative one. And I'm not saying that you have to be a creative person, but it is a creative approach in that I use photography. We all have cameras in our back pockets and wallets, and reflective journaling to really do that deeper exploration. So whenever you're done reading a section, there is a photography and a related writing prompt that you go and do to help you process and embody what you are just reading. So it's not just words. It's one thing to have words and think about it, and then it's another thing to really do the work to immerse yourself. And when you do it visually through something like photography, and you are learning that skill by taking pictures to look for positive things in your life, you create a storehouse of positive memories that you can call back upon, and you effectively create this upward spiral towards being happier. And then you're journaling about your images, as it relates to faith or love, whatever chapter you're in. What you're doing is you're giving structure to just a blob of thoughts. By writing it out, you are processing it and transmuting it into something that is more deeply meaningful and helpful to your happiness. And I think that's where my book differentiates from the other books that are in the market. I mean, there's several really great self-help books, personal growth, transformational books that are out there on the market. So I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm saying that my process is different because you are looking at it from an integrative approach where it's intellectual, it's visual, and then it becomes emotional as you're taking the pictures and writing and processing.
So when you think about other countries that you've been to, are there any others that stand out for you, or places you really want to go back to? For all of us that love to travel, what are those countries that you can't miss? You got to make sure you do those ones before you die.
I recently returned from my first trip to Bhutan, which is known as the Kingdom of Happiness. So instead of having a gross national product, they judge the wealth of their country based on the level of happiness of their people.
Where is this? Where is this place?
Oh, if you're going towards Indonesia, China, that part of the world, you fly through Nepal, through Kathmandu, to get to Bhutan. It's a very small country. It's never been conquered. It's a real kingdom, and one of the kings a few decades ago made that choice to judge the wealth of the country, its people, by the level of their well-being, and they have very specific pillars. That community is a big thing. The environment. So they preserve something like 60% of the country has to remain forested. It's a very mountainous, green country. And so they have these pillars in place that they use to measure how happy people are, the quality of their life. A certain level of job security. So they really thought about what are those pillars that define well-being in a way that is measurable. And it's a deeply spiritual country. I mean, there's virtually no place that you can go where you don't see a monk. And I think that is also huge. The emphasis put on faith, and for me, that's your first pillar in the happiness essentials, and that's why it's the first one in my book is faith. However you define it, I'm not saying that you have to have a religious belief, a particular philosophy, doctrine that you need to follow, but having faith. We all have some form of faith, whether you're secular or non-secular. And where do you go?
Oh my goodness. But it was 100% my fault because I did my coaching program this morning and I didn't change batteries. And so to do that one and this one, it doesn't last 2 hours. So I tried to get it to do 2 hours versus one. And so I apologize about that. But we were talking about happiness and Gatan, right? And faith, and why faith was the number one pillar in your happiness essentials.
Right. So Bhutan is a deeply spiritual place. And if Africa is my heart place, Bhutan is my spiritual place because of the emphasis that they put on faith. And faith is my very first chapter in Take a Shot at Happiness, How to Write, Direct, and Produce the Life You Want. And it's first because I think it is so foundational. This is my opinion. You can read the book and maybe put something else in first position. And that's what you're doing. You're exploring, what works for you. But I think from faith, everything else comes from that. So whether you believe in God, the creator, source, universal energy, whatever that is bigger than you, that is a vessel for hope, It's for solace. It helps you feel like you are not alone in this world. And when I realized how important faith was during 9/11. And I grew up as a, and I still practice, I grew up as a Greek Orthodox Christian. And so God has always been in my life. And it's just like, okay, God's there. And however, did I really embody what that meant to me? No, I didn't, not until later in life. And 9/11 was truly pivotal for me, because that first Sunday after 9/11, when I went to church, in the Greek Orthodox Church, Easter is the big celebration. It is standing room only. It's a huge cathedral. So it is packed with probably 1,200 people inside the cathedral. And that's what the first Sunday was like after 9/11. And everybody there was there for the same reason. They needed the community for comfort, for solace. And at that time, the priest, who was very charismatic, he gave a homily, a sermon that was very moving. I don't remember what he said, but I remember everybody was moved by it. But then what happened afterwards is what has stayed etched in my mind and really gave me the realization of how much faith is important to one's happiness. And is that we started to sing patriotic songs. Everybody in that church wept. I mean, describing it now, it chokes me up. It was so emotional because we were all there for the same reason. We wanted that comfort, and we wanted that comfort that came from community and from our belief in God.
Good for you.
So that's why it's important to me.
Good for you. Good for you. That's beautiful, Maria. Well, we could do like 3 more hours if you want to, but this is not the Joe Rogan show. This is Wealth on the Beach podcast, and everybody is going to reach out to you. So I want you to tell them how to reach out to you. And then they're going to all DM you and say how wonderful and brilliant and amazing you are. So tell us, how do we reach out?
Follow my name. So you can find me at Maria Baltazzi on my website, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Just follow at Maria Baltazzi. And if you're interested in my travel company, where I do these very special well-being travel experiences, that's at Sojourn Explorers on Instagram. And I also teach on Insight Timer. I'm a meditation teacher. I've been there on that app for years. So if you want to do live sessions with me, you can find me there as well. And then there's my book.
Take a shot at happiness. Let's go. Let's do it. Go get the book.
How to direct and produce the life you want, and explore it.
Go get the book.
That's what I really encourage everybody to become, is what I've become over the years, a happiness explorer. Learn what makes you happy, what's going to up-level your well-being.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, everybody, reach out to Maria and, send her a little DM, tell her how amazing she is, and let her know that you saw her and met her through Daniel and Wealth on the Beach podcast right here. And with that said, everybody, make sure that you continue to dream bigger than ever. Get after it. As always, right? You got to put in the time. You got to put in the work. Get after it. But most importantly, do it now. God bless you. We'll see you at the top.
Thank you.